Service your existing car with us right now.
And it's worth £500 off your next car.
Yes, at Macklin Motors Toyota, we'll give you a £500 voucher off any of our brand new Toyotas when you book in for a service with our expert Toyota trained technicians.
We even have complimentary courtesy cars available, so book your service now and get £500 off any new Toyota.
Visit macklinmotors.co.uk or see us at Kennishead Road, Darnley.
Macklin Motors, the new name for Toyota sales and servicing in Glasgow.
Valid on services till 30th September. Excludes Motability and fleet customers. One £500 voucher per vehicle purchased by 31st December.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com. Your local friendly experts for new and used cars.
Let's go!
Well, 4 days and counting to the start of the Scottish League season. Yeah, it's getting close. Livingston against Rangers on Saturday. That's the first game of the weekend. Amundvale. Hearts against Ross County, 3 o'clock. Kilmarnock against Dundee United. St Johnstone play Hibs. And on Sunday it's St Mirren against Motherwell. And the champions get their campaign going, their defence of the crown, at home to Aberdeen. That is a 4:30 kick-off. So we're going to have a leadership debate. No, not that one. I lost the will to live watching a bit of that last night. We're going to be talking about leadership of Scottish football's top flight. Who will be the top team? Will it be Celtic again? Do Rangers have enough to overhaul them? And Stephen Craigan, we're going to be getting you to do the complete countdown in the next hour. The expression in his face tells all at that point. Firstly, who are going to be champions? Can Celtic be deposed, do you reckon? Do we have enough evidence for that?
Are we going straight into it? This is it.
No, I don't want your entire 12, but...
Well, you just asked me the question.
I did. Any chance of an answer?
I always think that the team that won the league the previous season came into the following season as favourites. I think it was obvious last season when Rangers, 2 seasons ago, when Rangers won the league, they came in at the start of last season as favourites because they had momentum, they had that feel-good factor about them. Celtic had a little bit of a rebuilding job. And I think it's kind of similar this season. Celtic find themselves in a similar position Rangers were in last season, whereas they came in as favourites. They've kept the majority of their squad. I think theirs was all about a retainment over the summer, keeping Cameron Carter-Vickers and keeping Jota. They managed to do that. They've added the likes of Aaron Moy, who will give some quality. For Rangers, they've had to rebuild a little bit. They've lost some of their key players. They've brought in some good acquisitions, I have to say. They've spent really well. They've brought on good, young, hungry players with lots of room for improvement. So we still have to see how that will mould together. It's done well pre-season. Good result against West Ham. I watched the game against Spurs at the weekend. They had some good passages to play, some exciting moments. So can they bring it to the fore when the league game starts? So I always think that the champions from the previous season come into the following season as favourites just because they've won the league the season before. But that's not to say that Rangers aren't capable or won't put in a title challenge, because as we know, both sides will be strong. I think both sides will be well into the 90s this season with points. I look at the rest of the teams in the league and I'm not too sure many teams this season will take points off Rangers or Celtic. I would imagine at home, barring the Old Firm games, I can't see them dropping many points. And away from home, when you look at the squad depth both have, Rob, they will be streets ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, and they've been very active in the transfer market as well. Maybe some business still to be done as well. Latest in the door at Rangers, Reid van Yilmaz, the new left back from the Turkish international left back on a 5-year deal. Decent outlay of money on that one, so clearly a fair bit of confidence that he is going to make an impact at Rangers as well. We'll talk about Alfredo Morelos in the show. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has been speaking about his fitness and about the prospect of him signing a new deal. He's not quite ready. He's not going to be ready for the start of the season, clearly, but maybe a few weeks away. Could Kemar Roof be on his way out? He's being linked at the moment with a move to Sheffield Wednesday, Craigs. And the reality is he's got a great strike rate for when he's played, but he's been unavailable too often, hasn't he?
It has been. And just when you felt as if there was moments last season, particularly when Alfredo Morelos was out, which meant Kemar Roof was the only available out-and-out striker, there was moments where you thought, right, that's him. This is his chance to go and put 8, 9, 10 games together and show his impact. But then starts, plays, does okay, gets a goal, then injured. Just couldn't maintain that. And what kind of told me a little bit about where he might have sat in the mindset of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Europa League final, in the extra time, I think he got 2 or 3 minutes at the end. Scottish Cup final, didn't get on at all. And he's the only fit, out-and-out striker. Okay, might not have trained an awful lot, but at 1-1 in the Europa League final, you're looking for someone to come on and do something, possibly, and change the game. Aaron Ramsey as well, and they'd only got himself 2 or 3 minutes. I think they come on at the same time. So the fact that he only got 3 minutes over 2 games, 2 major games for Rangers, probably told me, or probably told everyone from the outside, he maybe isn't part of the long-term plans. He's maybe laying that marker down to say, I'm planting the seed early that I don't see you being my out-and-out number 9 moving forward. We'll get Morelos back. He might have had his mind on Cholak already. So just moments like that kind of stick out for you. But you're right. When he's fit and available in the team, he scores goals. Yeah. However, you'd imagine to be on a significant salary because they pay good money for him. They can't afford to have a player who's going to be fit only 50% of the season. Yeah. Whether that's his fault or whether it's not, or whether it's just a recurring injury that keeps coming up. But ultimately, as a manager, when the amount of games Rangers are going to play, they need people who they can rely on and can be fit and available.
I don't think we're suggesting for a minute that he's feigning injury or that he's not genuinely injured. But words like dependability and reliability are really important to a manager. You want to be able to count on him more often than you've got to count him out.
Yeah, but you can imagine for Kemar Roofe, it'll be hugely frustrating watching the players winning games, watching new players coming in. Watch him in the Europa League final and the build-up and that, the atmosphere at the semi-final at home against Leipzig in the second leg. It will be hugely frustrating knowing it's a niggling injury. But I think it seems to be calves. It seems to be a calf injury. And I always just think once calf injuries kick in, they're awfully hard to get rid of. They keep niggling back all the time. So, yeah, I mean, we're not for one moment saying he's fearing an injury. Of course he's not. He's a player who, when you can see plays, commits to the game and is fully committed in the game. It's just unfortunate that whether it's a recurring injury, the same injury, or whether it's different injuries, he's had a hell of a lot of bad luck.
We'll be talking about Alfredo Morelos, of course. We've been talking about him for the last 5 years since he came in the door. I think people have been wondering when he was going to leave, and maybe he's still not going to leave. Maybe he's going to sign up to a new deal. He's certainly back in training.
At the moment he's training, big parts of the session he's training with us, so that's a good sign. He looks, every session he looks better and sharper, so we're monitoring his development really closely in the next coming weeks, because of course when he's fit, he's one option for me up front as well, which we all know his qualities, so I'd rather have him back quick as possible.
And maybe a prospective move elsewhere was never going to happen with him not being fully fit, with him coming back from this injury, Craigs?
You'd imagine so. Anybody who would have been wanting to go and spend, 10, 12, 15 million, whatever the fee was going to be, I'm not going to decide the fee, but anybody who's going to spend significant money would want to sign someone who's fit and ready to play, not someone who you're going to sign and say, well, he might be ready in 4 or 5 weeks. Managers, if you're going to your owner or your chairman and saying, I want to spend money in this player, what's his form like? Is he fit? Is he available? Well, he's not fit for a few weeks. That would possibly put people off, which is maybe put Rangers back into the driving seat of getting them that contract extension. But plus you also remember with Alfredo Morelos, looking around the club, I think Giovanni van Bronckhorst has brought a freshness to the place. I really do. I just think there's just the way he deals with things. He's not as uptight possibly as what Steven Gerrard was. He's more relaxed. He doesn't give an awful lot away. The players seem to be enjoying him. You're looking at new players coming in the door, young players, hungry players. And if you're someone who's injured and you're watching what's going on, you're thinking, I wouldn't mind being a part of that. Maybe they just feels that there's something building nicely for them, getting to the Europa League final, selling some players, bringing some money in, bringing in the likes of Matondo, who's looked quick and sharp. Tillman has looked like he could possibly be that number 10 that Rangers have missed, that little spark player. He's only 20 years of age, so you can't rely on him in every single game, but he certainly looks as if he's got something. Tom Lawrence made an impact against West Ham. So suddenly when you put all that together, as a player, you think, I wouldn't mind being part of that. Plus, if they're coming and offering him a new contract, Rob, and giving them an increase in wages because they've got a bit more money to play with, then you think, well, why not sign a 4-year contract here, another 3 years, and stay here and score more goals? Because he's lauded. The fans love him. The fans love what he does. And when he's at his best, then he's a dangerous player. I can't help but think if he'd played in the Europa League final, Rangers would possibly have won the game. Yeah. Just because they were playing without.
And he's got that record of scoring in the European games.
That's his big games. Yeah. That's where he wants to be. So maybe he thinks, well, the club's going in the right direction. Things are moving forward. He's got a better relationship, possibly. Again, I'm trying to find out reasons why I would say maybe get a better relationship with Giovanni van Bronckhorst and Roy Mackay than maybe what I had with Steven Gerrard. Who knows? So when you feel happy somewhere and you feel content, then you think, why not sign again?
That was the Rangers manager speaking to Sky Sports, and here he is again on the subject of Morelos. This time, well, eventually he veers away from fitness and training and gets round to that thorny subject of will he sign a new deal?
Well, I mean, it's, I'm only looking, of course, for his physical fitness at the moment. He's been out for a long time, but working really hard to get back to the levels he has to be to perform in games. And of course, the other issue is the contract he has. He's very positive about signing a new contract. We're doing our best to get Morelos signed a new contract as well. So hopefully in the next coming weeks we will sort it out. But still the talks are going.
Very positive about signing a new contract. You wouldn't be taking anything for granted until it is carved in stone. But that sounds very encouraging.
He's put himself out there to say, he's keen to sign a new contract, basically. So that tells you the talks have happened. Clearly, he said that. I mean, there was a newspaper, someone said a story earlier on that they reckon it's been agreed, or it's just a matter of getting it signed. Clearly, remember Stuart Robertson, when he released his statement, I don't know, was it pre-Christmas possibly? When he spoke about the player trading model, maybe it could have been 18 months ago. Time's going that fast. Just about how you needed to sell players and bring some finance in. And the four we always spoke about were probably, the three were probably Ryan Kent, Joe Aribo, and Alfredo Morelos. And as the second half of last season went on, Calvin Bassey came into that. So out of the four players, they've probably thought, if we could sell two for significant money, it would then free up a little bit of money to enhance the squad elsewhere, but also probably to tie the other two up. So you could protect that investment for another 2 or 3 years. So I would imagine since Calvin Bassey's deal's gone through and Joe Aribo's deal's gone through, full focus will have been on Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos. Connor Goldson, he got his deal.
Yeah.
They probably knew Aribo was away, so that's huge business because that saves you a big transfer fee of having to go and bring in, you talk about dependability and reliability. Connor Goldson is fit every single game. And what was also a plus for, the likes of Connor Goldson and James Tavernier, there's no international football over the summer. So as much as they play 55, 60 games through a season or whatever it may be, come the summer, they don't play international football, they don't play major competitions. So they get 7-8 weeks off to recover and get themselves down, and they can go and do that again. Whereas if they were playing internationals in June, then September, then November, it would take its toll somewhere along the line. So
is Glenn Kamara another one you could add into that frame? A player who potentially could make a massive profit for Rangers and around whom there has been quite a lot of talk through the summer?
Well, a massive profit on the money they paid for him. Of 50 grand. I mean, if you sold Glenn Kamara for £8 million, for example, £6-8 million, something to Joe Aribo, that's a huge increase of value from your £50,000. So the fact they have him in a longer term contract means that he's tied down if someone comes in and wants to take him on.
So it's got to be silly money, like an offer you can't refuse, like Calvin Bassey.
I think, not that kind of number.
No, I'm not suggesting it would be that number, but a figure that actually you can't really say no to.
Because you have him on a longer term deal. So if somebody comes in and tries to, undercook or undervalue your player, I think, well, it's okay, he's got 3 years left on his contract. If you want to come in and you want to take Glenn Kamara, for example, the player we're talking about, you've got to give us a money where actually offer a fee that makes us think, oh, this is viable now. But anything that they, say 5-6 million, I think, well, there's no point because he's more value to us in the middle of the pitch and he'll win us more games and potentially win major trophies and potentially progress in Europe. That's much more beneficial than £5 million, considering when they just got £12 million for Nathan Patterson, or 12 million-ish, whatever the final deal is, 18 million up to 22 for Calvin Bassey, 6 for Joe Aribo. Rangers probably haven't brought in that type of money ever in a transfer window. I mean, somebody might come on and say, no, they made this, and I can't remember ever that kind of money coming in the transfer window for Rangers. So that covers their potential loss of Champions League earnings if they don't get themselves into the Champions League. That's a huge windfall to fall back on, Rob. Plus, add Europa League money that they made towards the end of the season. If they do get into the Champions League, then they suddenly become really cash rich. So without getting ahead of themselves, Morelos and Kent, you would imagine, will be the next two players. But Morelos looks as if it's close. Kent will be the next one, just to protect what they have and the investment they made in him at £7 million to try and keep him for another 2 or 3 years. If he does well, then they possibly sell and get their money back.
Yeah, I think what you were saying about Kamara is probably what I feel about Alfredo Morelos. There's been a lot of talk about him moving on. He's in the last year of his contract, but you have to, if you do let him go, and we have been talking about £6, £7, £8 million as a potential fee. Does that cover the goals you're gonna lose in the course of the season? And on the positive side of that coin, what you're going to get out of Morelos, getting you again deep in, maybe qualifying you for the Champions League.
Well, I suppose the other side of that, the flip side of that would be if he shows no intention of signing. and he says, I want to leave, or I'm not signing a new contract, do you get a demotivated player who's looking to move? Or, if you sign a new contract, then you get a motivated player who wants to go and prove that. So there's the balance of two. Naturally, the goals he brings and the appetite and the energy he brings up front and the havoc he causes for defences then is absolutely worthwhile keeping. Hence the reason why they're trying to push it for him. But, £5-6 million wouldn't replace what Alfredo Morelos brings as the package. What he brings to the team, what he brings to the pitch, what he brings to the fans, the goals, assists. Of course it wouldn't replace that. However, if he's made it clear that he's not going to sign a contract, then, like Joe Aribo, £6 million plus add-ons, is it undervalued? Probably for the quality player he has, but that's based on having a year left in his contract and quite clearly making the point, I don't want to sign again. I'll stay and play for the next year if you want me to. But then the value goes down come Christmas, and then you end up losing the player for next to nothing. So, tie him up, I think, naturally would be the first instinct for Rangers.
From what you've seen of Cholak so far, if Alfredo Morelos is fit and firing on all cylinders, is he the man? Is he still the man? Can they both be fitted into the team? Or is Alfredo Morelos still at the top of the pecking order if he gets back to where he was?
If both fully fit, I would say Morelos is your number one striker. Yeah. Absolutely. But you're saying fit. I mean, you could be, considering he's been out quite a long time, you could be 6, 7, 8 weeks away from that.
By the time he gets some games.
By the time he gets himself games, the time he gets, and you might have to take bits where he doesn't play so well or he looks fatigued coming off the bench, he'll have to kind of work his way in. So having Cholak, who started, I think, every pre-season game.
And how's he looked?
I think he's looked better as he's went on.
And is he a number 9?
Yes, out and out number 9. Yeah. And I think what will suit Rangers having him away from home, in the tight, compact grounds where defences sit in, they have an option now to go a little bit more direct. The cross from deeper like James Tavernier does, because he has that presence of 6'2", 6'3", who not just maybe wins the ball, but attracts defenders to him, which then means creates space for other midfield players to get involved. Tom Lawrence looked like he's an attacking midfield player. Matondo's got incredible pace. So when he gets 1v1 against people, it's going down the line and it's coming into the box. So you've got a centre forward, Rob, who's probably at his best in the double 6-yard box. That's where he does all his work. Morelos would run the channels and link up play. Cholak will do that, but I think he looks like an out-and-out number 9 who get the ball into the right areas and he'll cause havoc and score goals.
What do you think? Is Alfredo Morelos still Rangers' number 1 striker? Is he about to sign on the dotted line and extend his stay at Ibrox? Are Rangers going to overhaul Celtic and be champions this season? Or is it going to be all about Ange Postecoglou and his team again holding on to their title and proving themselves to be the best in the country? 0808 17 17 700. It's Rob McLean and Stephen Craigan on Tuesday's Go Radio Football Show on the socials at Go Football Show. And the football chat continues.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com. Your local friendly experts for new and used cars.
Let's go!
It's Tuesday's Go Radio Football Show with breaking news for you. There's Motherwell news coming up, but immediately just the news that Juventus have terminated the contract of midfielder Aaron Ramsey. I wonder if he could be back for part 2 at Rangers. Don't think so, probably, but that's the end of his deal. I wonder what the payoff was, Craigs, eh?
Well, it's incredible because the range of his weekly wage went from £200,000 to £400,000, so I've no idea what it is. But I think most importantly for Aaron Ramsey is to get back playing football again, Rob. Get yourself fit, get into someone's team. Wales have got the World Cup coming up in November. He came to Rangers in January. It didn't work out. He wasn't available for enough games, probably. You'd imagine it's a bugbear of his that he didn't get the chance to make any kind of impact in the Europa League final or playing the Scottish Cup final. However, these things happen. He's got the World Cup finals to look forward to, so hopefully he gets himself a club. I'm sure there'll be plenty of suitors, plenty of English Premier League clubs I'd imagine will be having a little look. There's the emotional one of Cardiff as well. I think they were linked just because that's where he started his career. Would he go back and play at Cardiff? But you'd imagine there'd be plenty of people, and you'd think it would be a pay-as-you-play deal. If he's got that big payoff you're talking about, then pay-as-you-play would probably suit him.
Do you think Rangers reflect on the January transfer window and what did happen and what didn't happen? Amad Diallo didn't make the impact that was expected on loan from Man United. Aaron Ramsey certainly didn't have the impact. And you just wonder whether Rangers could have beefed up the squad at that point and got closer to Celtic.
I think that's a hard window. Beefing up the squad would have meant going and buying players, spending money to bring players in when Rangers didn't know they had the Europa League run ahead of them.
Yeah.
They didn't know they were going to sell Calvin Bassey for 20 odd million pounds in the summer and Joe Aribo. So they probably had to work within a budget. And I always think it's a really difficult window to go and spend money because clubs aren't going to part with their best players. So, Rangers went down the route of trying to bring in loan deals because they brought them in so late in January as well. They weren't up to fitness. They hadn't played for a long time, either of them. They hadn't played a lot of first team football. So the minute they came into the club, they're playing catch up. And Rangers were back in playing games. They needed players to hit the ground running. So it was probably two gambles they took to see if they could make any kind of impact, because Diallo was a winger that they needed and Aaron Ramsey was that attacking midfield player that they needed. But ultimately it didn't work for them. Looking back, would they do it again? Probably not, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. However, when two players like that are afforded to them, and it must have fitted within their budget, within their financial restraints, it must have fitted within their tight budget, they thought, well, okay, we'll go and have a go at it. Big name players, they might produce a moment or moments that could help us along the way, but unfortunately it didn't go that way.
How do you fancy 250 quid? No, not you. You, how do you fancy? We've teamed up with our friends at Clyde Built Home Improvements. Your chance to win £250 every Friday on the show by predicting the weekend Scottish Premiership results. Register online at thisisgo.co.uk now for your chance to join us in predicting the scores this Friday on the eve of the start of the Premiership campaign. Everyone who comes on gets £100 straight away, then £150 if you get them all right. Shouldn't be a great problem. What? Register now at thisisgo.co.uk.
I'm just thinking, just looking at Scottish football fixtures, how the heck can you predict, out with the old firm, Hearts possibly, the rest of them?
Really?
Is
that going to be a problem, do you think?
I always look at us, well, whoever does it, I would say deserves a hell of a lot more than 150 quid.
Well, you have ordered with the management there.
You'd be better going to the bookies and putting it on the bookies and trying to get better odds, because, just even looking at this weekend's fixtures coming up, it's really difficult because there's very little between the teams, Rob.
Yeah.
And if you made your predictions and went and looked at them the following day, you would think, how wrong was I? But that's sometimes you go with gut instinct. But whoever gets that, you'll deserve your money.
Well, Motherwell have got themselves a boost today. Kevin Van Veen has signed a 1-year contract extension. Your old team, pleased about that?
Yes, because he's the only out-and-out striker they have who played in that position. Connor Shields is a centre forward, but he's been getting played off the right hand side. So I think he's their talisman. I think when he's in their team, he makes them better. He looked a little bit sluggish last week, but that's because he hadn't trained. He hadn't played the Partick Thistle game. I think the last pre-season friendly before it, he had minimal training time ahead of the Sligo game. So there's no doubt he's a big player. Losing Tony Watt at Christmas took a few goals out of the team. Maybe not Tony Watt necessarily, but his goals were missed in the second half of the season. He couldn't replace his goals. Kevin Van Veen, goals dried up second half of the season, but I think he's their best centre forward they have. So to have him for another year, 2024, I think his contract goes to now, certainly should be some sort of boost, and he will be much fitter and sharper after the minutes he had last week against Sligo. He should be much fitter and sharper this Thursday in Sligo. Yeah,
he's a really talented player, isn't he? And he has a big effect on everyone round about. Not too many massive dramatic changes in that Motherwell team, but they'll have to come up with something. Do you see them turning it round in Sligo?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not been arrogant, they're writing Sligo off. I just look at them and think what was missing wasn't general fitness, wasn't match fitness effectively, but I said to you before the programme, it was the finer details in the game that let them down a little bit. Corner kicks hitting the first man or hitting the goalkeeper's hands, cross balls hitting the first defender, shots from distance on target but not really threatening to go into the back of the net. Sometimes that way of pass was under hit or over hit. Link up play, movement, all that kind of stuff that comes through 4 or 5 games, whether they're friendlies or whether they're competitive games. They just looked as if they were a little bit blunt in the final thing they'd done with the ball in the top end of the pitch. They had enough possession, they had plenty of the ball. Sligo carried a threat. They were good in the counter-attack. They had Boy Fitzgerald on the left-hand side, O'Sullivan on the right. Aidan Keane up front. For as quiet as he was, he got a really good goal after an individual error by Bevis Mugabe. So, it's not as if they're going to play the top 2 or 3 teams in the League of Ireland, which are probably Dundalk, St Pat's, who Tim Clancy's manager off, or Derry City or Shamrock Rovers. They're good sides. I'm not saying Sligo aren't, but I think Sligo are a mid-table League of Ireland team. And if Motherwell can't beat a mid-table League of Ireland team over 2 legs, they've got serious concerns moving forward. That's just the nature of the business. But I certainly think, they will have been hurt. They've been a little bit embarrassed because you've lost, especially at home, against the team you should be beaten. And I would expect to see that frustration come out on the game on Thursday. First goal in this game, crucial. Because suddenly then Sligo have a mindset, what do we do? Do we try and attack? Do we sit back? Do we defend? Motherwell have to go and try and get the early goal, try and put them in the back foot and see if they can switch the mindset. And then they have the momentum and they're the team driving forward. But more than confident that Motherwell can go and do it. But they will have to produce better in the final third than what they did the other night.
Yeah, with Stephen Reside on the show last Friday, the day after the first leg, and he was not impressed with the performance, and already asking questions about Graham Alexander. It was a bit of a roller coaster for him as manager, wasn't it? Last season, he took a lot of stick. There was a lot of criticism, and ultimately, you couldn't really have a go at him because he got them into Europe.
Yeah, well, that was big criticism that people saying Motherwell were dreadful in the second half of the season, yet they still get into Europe. But it wasn't Graham Alexander's fault and Motherwell's fault. It was 6 or 7 other teams who were worse off than them and couldn't get above them. I mean, if you're a supporter of another club and you're criticising Motherwell and Graham Alexander for last season, I would look a little bit closer to home at what you're watching from your manager and your team rather than pointing a finger at someone else. So I think that's the carry on. That's why there's a little bit more frustration towards Graham Alexander after the first leg because of poor results in the second half of last season. 3 league wins out of 18, I think it was, Rob, something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the general frustration. And then they talk about style of play. But style of play only gets spoke about when you're not winning games. They have to throw something else at you. So it will be a big one for them. But it would be, in football terms, a travesty if they couldn't get themselves through. I think we have to say that. It then puts a manager hugely on the back foot. Remember Angelo Alessio at Kilmarnock, went out against Connaskey Nomads.
Yeah.
And then you're always fighting against the elements to get yourself back into it, to try and prove people what you can do. So that'll be in the back of Graham's mind. But ultimately, he spoke quite confidently after the game last week that they've got more than enough to go to Sligo and win. Fingers crossed.
It's funny, a couple of the games at the weekend put together 4 managers who are, you would say, under early season pressure, if it's not too early to be starting
2.5 weeks into the season, right?
I know,
that's incredible.
I know, but I mean that's the pedal. That's the pedal of playing games in the League Cup, isn't it? For in Motherwell's case, a European tie, of course, but for the other 3, it's been all about their performance or lack of performance in the early stages of the Premier Sports Cup. So Motherwell are in Paisley on Sunday to play St Mirren, and it seems to me it's not going to take long, unless they do get off to a good start, for Stephen Robinson to be under a bit of pressure in Paisley. Would you agree with that?
I find it a bit hard because he's had one transfer window. He's just in the door. Ultimately, when he took over from Jim, you have to say, I think when he took over from Jim, they had won 4 of 7 games or won 3 of 6 games in the league.
They were on a good run.
Which you have to say was hugely out of sync from their first half of the season, when I think they had went prior to that, went 11 without a win. So that little window of 6 or 7 games probably made St Mirren look a lot better than what they actually were or how they were performing. When Stephen came in, they were in a place for challenge for top 6. They didn't get top 6, finished off with a couple of wins. But again, similar from Graham Alexander, it follows then into the Premier Sports Cup. And you don't get results and there's a little bit of frustration. But I think, if St Mirren beat Motherwell on Sunday, I wouldn't say it's all forgot about, but it suddenly flips it.
Yeah.
Likewise with Graham Alexander, depending on how it goes on Thursday. If they won Thursday and won Sunday, it flips it. So that's why there's so many defining games this season, even in the early stages, of managers who are just looking for a little bit of hope or just looking for something to turn in their favour. Goals, huge thing I spoke about, particularly with these 2 teams out with Kevin Van Veen. There's no one really else at Motherwell I look at and think, I can see you getting 10, 12 goals this season. That's been honest. Connor Shields, I think, got 2 league goals last year. Joe Efford got himself 2 league goals.
That's a big problem, isn't it?
It's huge. Callum Slattery, I think, possibly got 2. There's not an awful lot in the team. Then you look at St Mirren and you think, Eamon Brophy, can he get himself 10, 12 goals? I'm not so sure. Can he stay fit? Can Curtis Main get himself 10, 12 goals? Probably not.
No.
So that's the biggest difference in the league. Who can find someone that can get themselves goals? That's why Motherwell were successful in the first half of last season, because Kevin Van Veen and Tony Watt managed to keep chipping away at the goals. So when you take Tony Watt's goals out and Kevin Van Veen gets injured, you look around and think, who's going to score?
Yeah.
So whoever can find, and be fair, that you're talking about St Johnstone and Hibs, that's been St Johnston's problem.
Yeah.
For years, you'd imagine. Then you look at Hibs when they lost Kevin Nisbet through injury and Martin Boyle through selling him in January. You looked around their team and thought, who's going to get goals? And you're relying on Melkerson, who's 19 years of age, who you could potentially be relying on this season until Nisbet gets himself fit, or whether Hibs going to invest.
Christian Doidge.
Yeah.
But I mean, he scored a hat-trick on the first game in the League Cup and hasn't scored since.
Clyde hasn't scored since. I think he brought in a couple of strikers. Did I have a little... Who was the two strikers he brought in? Was it Johan and Bojan and Johan?
There's Jair Tavares, who's more of a winger, I think, by the looks of him, and then Mamadou Boyang has come in as well. But I mean, I've seen them in a couple of these League Cup games. Actually, unfortunately for them, the two that they lost to Morton on penalties at home. And at Falkirk, where they'd made 6 changes to the team that had beaten Clyde 5-0 and never really got going in that game until it was kind of too late. I'm not seeing anything so far in that Hibs team that's telling me here's a team moving forward.
I think the frustration from the Hibs fans, having read some of the comments, was they felt as if the midfield trio last year, for example, if it was Josh Campbell, Joe Newell and Jake Doyle-Hayes, probably didn't work or didn't give enough productivity for the team. The start of the season, and it was those three again. So fans are thinking, let's see something different. Things like Kenna, they brought in the midfield
from Leeds. Leeds, it was going to take time. Clearly,
it's going to take time. So for all the players Hibs have brought in, and they've brought a lot in again. They signed Bashiri on a full-time contract, and they signed Ewan Henderson on a full-time contract. But they're bringing in 7, 8, 9 players. They brought in 9, 10, or 11 in January. The answer can't just keep being, let's just keep bringing players in. You have to at some stage think, right, let's make these players better. Let's work with the ones that we have, and we have to make sure they're better and see if we can make a better team off them. So, but yeah, because of their last season, then they're on the back foot. Albeit Lee Johnson, I have to say, spoke very well, knows the game, has, gives good in-depth thought process of what he wants to do and how he's going to do it. However, if you're not going to win football games and his players don't go out and replicate what he's talking about, then his talk is, it doesn't really mean anything because the players aren't reflecting what he's talking about. So, what can he do? He has to make them better. It's as simple as that. The Hibs should be minimum top 6.
Yeah. And if you're using the Sean Maloney barometer, Lee Johnson's got about 15 games to go. Because that sounds like a joke, and it is a joke, but that's where we're at in terms of that's how long Sean Maloney was given. So the fans, if these results continue, if Hibs get off to a below average start to the season in the league, the fans are going to be saying, well, Sean Maloney got about 4 months. Why is Lee Johnson going to get any longer?
Because Hibs fans haven't been used to winning league games. Even when Jack gets sacked, rightly or wrongly, his last 8, 9, 10 league games, I think he only won 2 or 3, if even that. So bringing Sean Maloney in didn't really give an upturn. I think he only won possibly 3. So you've got almost half a season, more than half a season, Rob, where you haven't won many games. And then the Hibs fans go out of the Premier Sports Cup and they're like, we've drew against Morton, we've lost away to Falkirk, here we go again. So he really needs to hit the ground run. He needs to pick up some wins early on. Where is St Johnstone? Is it then home to Hearts?
That's right.
Possibly,
Yeah, because Hibs have been whinging about the fact that it is an Edinburgh derby 2 games in. Yeah.
So going to St Johnstone will make some of his players really sit up and take notice and think, this is what Scottish football's all about. Going to St Johnstone, first game of the season, who will be dogged, will be hard to beat, will try and frustrate, will get smashed in, will put the ball forward. Hibs players are in for a rude awakening if they think they're going for a lovely sunny day to pass the ball about. And then comes a derby against the Hearts team, who are well moulded, well drilled, and have got a lot of continuity from last season.
You were talking about difficult to predict games on the opening weekend on the predictor. That's 0-0 written all over it in Perth, isn't it? To start the weekend.
Well, to be fair, for a long time it's been St Johnstone 0, hasn't it? Without being critical, that's how Callum built the success. Was maybe not scoring a lot of goals, but not conceding a lot of goals. So. Yeah, that's one. And to be honest, I'd look at St Mirren Motherwell and I wouldn't be far off a 0-0 in that way either, being honest.
No, exactly. It could be anything but a goal fest at the weekend. But I mean, just a word about St Johnstone and Callum Davidson. And you do, when you get off to a bad start, then fans do start taking in the tail end of last season and what was happening before the summer break. And that would very much be borne in mind, I think, by the St Johnstone fans if they've already got off to a bad start because they haven't made it through to the knockout stages of the League Cup. They won both cups, didn't they? Two seasons back. Callum Davidson has to have a lot of credit in the bank, but there's going to be unrest in Perth, isn't there? If St Johnstone are at the bottom end of the league a couple of months in.
Well, it seems unjust, but ultimately, as a manager, you can't always keep looking back or think, we won the cup, or 2 cups 2 years ago. You've got to judge on where you are at this moment in time. Graham Carey coming in will get goals from distance. Jamie Murphy hopefully will bring a little bit of a spark. Dre Wright didn't have a great time At Hibs, however, he's got a little bit of pace about him. So that's what they've lacked. An out-and-out goal scorer, a little bit of creativity. If they can add that, bringing in the likes of Andy Considine and Ryan McGowan, like for like against Sean Rooney and Jamie McCart, probably more experience. So defensively, you'd always think they'll be thereabouts and decent. But it's that final thing you do with the ball, that little bit of creativity. Who's going to get the goals? Theo Blair? Stevie May?
I know. It's a good question.
That's the big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just about to scribble down on the back of that fag packet over there. You are your Premiership 1 to 12. Who's going to win? Who's going to get automatic relegation? And how's it going to go among the 10 teams in between? Craigs has got his thinking cap on, and let us know what you think as well.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com. Your local friendly experts for new and used cars.
Let's go!
That's your traffic and travel on the Go Radio Football Show with Macklin Motors, and we are Tuesday, and we're just 4 days away from the start of the SPFL League season, the Premiership. Of course, you'll have your thoughts about who's going to be top, who's going to be bottom, who's going to fill the top 6 places, who's going to win the Championship, League 1, League 2. Stephen Craigan is having similar thoughts right now. He is frantically
I'm fine.
scribbling. Are you organised? Of course you're organised. What a daft question.
All picked.
He's come in with his usual dossier of information. I tried to look over his shoulder once or twice, but he keeps his cards pretty close to his chest. So let's go for it then. You're 1 to 12 in the Premiership.
And this is off today. This is picking it, looking at it today.
As things stand.
Naturally, we know things can change and work and go. I said earlier, I think Celtic slight favourites just because they come into the season with momentum. They've got a good, consistent squad. Ange knows how they play. The players have pulled it off for him. So, considering how they finished the season, I think they haven't lost a league game since September. So I think they'll be favourites rightly. And I think you deserve to be favourites because you won the league the season before. So Celtic win the league.
And you have to find a reason to bump them out of the way, don't you? Really?
Well, that's and the challenge is up to Rangers to go and do that.
Yeah.
They'll be thinking within their dressing room, of course we can do it, which is what you expect. So I don't think it'll be a simple, straightforward title. I think it will go right to the wire again as it did last season. Both sides will have good days and I'm saying bad days. I don't think they will. I just think they'll be far too strong for everyone else. You look at the money they're spending, Rob. Not even the money they're spending, the income they have with transfer fees and Celtic in the Champions League. To be able to go and spend, and you consider what other clubs have. Other clubs are cutting costs and trying to save a few £100 here and there. They're going and spending millions. So the gap for me this season could be as big as it's been for a long time. I mean, at the Hearts still will be. I think Hearts will be third. Rangers second, Hearts third for me.
And then comes the decision.
I generally looking at the other 9 clubs. If anyone said to me today, "There's your bottom 2 out of those 9," I would go, okay. It wouldn't surprise me if somebody said Aberdeen would be in the bottom 2 or Hibs would be in the bottom 2, for example, or Motherwell in the bottom 2. It wouldn't surprise me, just because it's so unpredictable. And Aberdeen probably haven't been tested this season, so are they? Is it a little bit false to think that they could finish 4th? I'm going on that they could finish 4th just because they've spent a few quid.
And I think you look at the international pedigree of some of the players coming in, I guess, for them. I mean, they have to be better because they were dreadful last season.
And Liam Scales, I think, is a good signing for them. So, based on what Jim Goodwin has spent and what's been available, I wouldn't be surprised to see Aberdeen back in the top 6 and finishing in 4th place. I'm going to go for Hibs. I don't know why. To finish in 5th. Well, I'm saying I don't know why. But they should be better than what they were. And I look at some of the players they have who should be better than what they've produced. So, just again, based on money they've spent, not based on Premier Sports Cup, but how their manager speaks and what he wants from them. I think if he gets out of them what he wants to get out of them, what he hopes to get from them, then they'll be in the top 6. So I'm going to go for them in 5th place. And Dundee United to finish in the top 6. That's our 6 biggest clubs in the country, I'd reckon. That'd be right.
Yeah.
Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, Dundee United and Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Would probably be the 6 best supported clubs in the league. So
you look at what Jack Ross has done in the transfer market. I know you would point to a lack of goals potentially in Stephen Fletcher, but he will certainly lead the line, and he's maybe exactly what you want on the basis that Dundee United have brought in some players in the summer, but a lot of the policy will continue to be the same. They will continue to blood young players in the team.
Well, they have to, and a lot of clubs are now looking at, because the English Premier League clubs can't go to the EU and bring in, and because of Brexit, they can't go and bring in the Spanish youngsters and the French youngsters and the German youngsters and get them for cheap. So they're now looking to Scotland and thinking, right, where can we get? Who can we buy? So if you've got young players in your first team, your business model is to bring young players in, put them in your first team and sell them for a profit. You know, Kerr Smith was, for example, went to Aston Villa for like a fee leading up to £2 million. So that's big money for Dundee United. So if they can do that with Alexa, Chris Mockery, for example, you know, they can get him into the first team and get him doing well, have a couple of good games and someone comes and buys him. So that will always be the model. However, the Dundee United fans like that, but they also look around and think we still want to be pushing at the top end of the league. And if it means dripping youngsters in and out, fine. If they come in and they do well, keep them in. But the minute they turn, can you bring them back out again? So that has to be the thought. Yeah, Stephen Fletcher, you know, especially hold-up play and link-up play, will battle with defenders. He'll create space for others because his hold-up play is that good. Does he have the legs to run in behind and stretch the game? Maybe not as once as what he did. But, I mean, he played in the English Championship last year. Didn't get a lot of goals. However, the fact that he played in the English Championship told you he's still more than capable of playing at a decent level. So, you know, Tony Watt's going to have to step up. Get himself one league goal at Dundee United, which coincidentally was against Motherwell. So they need more goals from him.
Dylan Levitt will chip in with some goals.
I have to say, was a terrific signing.
Surprised?
Probably a little bit. I thought the likes of Hibs and Hearts might have had a little nibble. Aberdeen might have had a little nibble for what, 300, 350
Yeah,
grand.
when they knew, when it became clear that he was available.
Absolutely. You know, whether Dundee United had struck a deal with Manchester United, but prior to him going on loan or whether there was something agreed into it. But certainly he's one that will step up, and he'll probably enjoy playing with Stephen Fletcher when he's bouncing balls around the corner and sticking into the centre forward, and he can go and make second phase runs and things like that. So you'd imagine that will be good for them. So that's the top six. The rest, I mean, it's a tombola.
Yeah,
you could literally draw them out.
I mean, the two I would throw at you probably as my thoughts on maybe these two breaking into the top six. Well, not breaking in because Ross County were there last season. Yeah. I have a feeling Malky Mackay's probably done exactly what he did a year ago in terms of the players he's brought in, and he's proved that he can put them together into a team. The other team I think that could feature in the top six are Kilmarnock.
I watched Kilmarnock against Partick Thistle.
Right, okay.
And I wasn't impressed at all.
Okay.
Derek, I think it's since signed 3 players.
Right.
So that could change it, and Kyle Lafferty didn't play that night.
Right.
But again, Kyle's 35, almost 35.
So how much is he going to play? Would that be
exactly,
your point?
He's a bit of a back problem. So I don't,
Right.
you know, playing on the AstroTurf surface or the 4G probably doesn't certainly help a bad back. He hasn't played since, Rob. I think he hasn't played since the Partick. He didn't play the Partick Thistle game. He played first game of the season away to Fraserburgh, and he hasn't played since. You know, so that's a slight concern going into the first game of the season. He might not have played or trained an awful lot. You know, again, Jordan Jones coming in, what is he going to bring? You know, they needed a little bit of pace. Watching Kilmarnock that night, they needed a little bit of pace. Injection of pace. Jordan Jones used to have it.
The question is, can he get back to what he was producing last time around at Kilmarnock?
That's up to him.
Yeah.
That's up to him. He's went to Wigan and it's not worked. He's went to St Mirren.
Didn't really do it at St Mirren, did he?
No, it didn't work for some reason. You know, whether that's down to player, whether it's down to club, I don't know. Whether it was down to an niggling injury, something affecting him. But, you know, if you get him fit, but many managers have said that, you know, but there's no doubt he's a talent. You know, you get him running at people and causing havoc and taking defenders. Exactly what Kilmarnock needed. They need a ball carrier to get themselves up the pitch, and he's playing for them. Daniel Armstrong was another one who actually impressed me. For Kilmarnock, could be a little game changer. He has never really played in the top flight, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. But you're right, Kilmarnock could get in there. But, you know, you could also put that same argument for Motherwell and St Mirren. Okay, they haven't started great, but all it takes is a little run of form, a little bit of momentum going forward. Livingston lost out last season. You know, they've kept the core of the squad. Nicky Devlin, Obalai, Bruce Anderson will get goals, Andrew Shinney. You know, they'll think they're more than capable of getting themselves, or pushing certainly for top six. But you'd imagine a few of those managers would think, oh, we could just finish about 8th or 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
Stay away from the bottom 2. Then we'd be quite happy just to build and consolidate and try and push ourselves on the next season.
So we're talking for you: Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs, and Dundee United, and bottom 6. Well, who's you know?
Yeah, you're right. I think Ross County will be thereabouts.
Yeah,
just I mean, it's tough because Malky every season's having to bring in 8 or 9, 10 players. That's tough to integrate in every single year and try and bring people in. But I think he signed more players on deals this year as opposed to loans from last year. So it started off well. Big test going to Hearts first game of the season.
Yeah.
If they can make a splash there, then they might open people's eyes.
Who are the most obvious strugglers?
Based on what I haven't watched Kilmarnock, I had said Kilmarnock and St Johnstone.
Right.
So, and Motherwell, St Mirren were probably the 4.
Right.
You know, who would be trying to stay out of those bottom 2 places. That's just what it looks like from here. You know, I haven't watched an awful lot of them. Once we get going 3 or 4 games, then you'll get a better view of where they are. But I would imagine County and Livingston would be pushing closer towards the top 6 than actually the bottom 4.
Top goal scorer in the Premiership?
Kyogo.
Yeah.
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 You just think where he would have been if he hadn't been injured
exactly.
Christmas. And he came back and he
He
wasn't.
got 20, didn't he? Even missing 3 months.
But league goals, would he get 11 league goals?
Well, it was less than Giakoumakis could got 13, certainly.
13, maybe 9 or 11. So I just think if he'd have stayed fit, the goals he'd have got. When he came back later in the season, I didn't think he was the same player. He still looked as if he was trying to get himself up to speed. So a nice break over the summer coming fresh. I think because Morelos, you'd normally say Morelos, but because he's possibly going to miss the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, he's then playing catch up. Kyogo could have 7 goals by then, So I would imagine Kyogo.
Who's going to win the championship?
The teams who meet on Saturday, Dundee or Partick Thistle. Thistle really impressed me. I really liked it. Do they have the sustainability? And Dundee under Gary Boyer have started well, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those two.
Okay. We're going to look at the fixtures finally on the show. Get your predictions for the weekend, because that's exactly what you will be doing shortly. After we've heard from Giovanni van Bronckhorst talking about the challenge of overhauling Celtic.
Well, I think we have to have the consistency to win every game. Of course, the old firm games are, as of last year, very close. And but of course, we want to be champions next year, and that's as I said, we have to win every game, every week, and that's our aim. We have to work hard for that because of all the European games and cup games in between. But we cannot lose so many points as we did last year.
Yeah, there was that little spell, wasn't there, where they spilled points, and even though they got back closer to Celtic, Celtic had given themselves that cushion, and it was 4 points of a differential at the end.
I think they dropped points at Tannadice, they dropped points at home against Motherwell, they had dropped points at Aberdeen, and that all came to catch up with them. It caught up with them too much, and that's what I'm talking about. Cholak gives them something different. May just be that target man, Rob, who can get them the goal when they desperately need it.
Let's get your scorelines then for the first weekend of the Premiership season. We're hinting at maybe a lack of goals. Livingston Rangers is where it all starts at the Tony Macaroni on Saturday.
I'd go for 2-0 Rangers.
2-0 Rangers in that one. At 3 o'clock, Hearts against Ross County. They both finished top 6 last season.
1-0 Hearts.
Okay, 1-0 Hearts in that one. Kilmarnock against Dundee United at Rugby Park.
1-1.
1-1.
See if I get these all right. I come in here Monday, get the money.
Well, you can try.
Right, okay, that's fine. Just checking.
Can I wish you the best of luck on that one? St Johnstone against Hibs.
0-0.
Yeah, do you think we're settled on that one? Do you think that's a bank? That's the banker of the weekend.
That's the one. That should be somebody's first answer. 0-0.
They could be there for 3 hours trying to score those two, which probably means it will be 3-3.
Yep.
Sunday, St Mirren against Motherwell.
0-0.
0-0 in that one. And Celtic against Aberdeen, 4:30 on Sunday.
4-0.
4-0.
I think Celtic will be right at it Sunday.
Yeah.
With Liam Scales not playing, I think he makes Aberdeen a much better. Ross McCrory possibly playing centre half.
At the back, yeah.
Then they lose him in midfield. So I think that will be a real baptism of fire for some of the Aberdeen players.
Okie dokie. Celtic kicking off their defence of the title, and of course they know exactly what's coming Europe-wise. It's a place in the group stages of the Champions League. Rangers start next Tuesday to try to qualify away to Union SG. But before that, it all starts in the Premiership at the weekend. Thanks for that, Craigs. We'll see you soon, and we will talk to you soon on the Football Show. It is Paul tomorrow with Mark Guidi and Peter Grant.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com. Your local friendly experts for new and used cars.
Let's go!
Service your existing car with us right now.
And it's worth £500 off your next car.
Yes, at Macklin Motors Toyota, we'll give you a £500 voucher off any of our brand new Toyotas when you book in for a service with our expert Toyota trained technicians.
We even have complimentary courtesy cars available, so book your service now and get £500 off any new Toyota.
Visit macklinmotors.co.uk or see us at Kennishead Road, Darnley.
Macklin Motors, the new name for Toyota sales and servicing in Glasgow.
Valid on services till 30th September. Excludes Motability and fleet customers. One £500 voucher per vehicle purchased by 31st December.